Greetings, friends. Welcome back to another amazingly horrifying day here on the October Mega Marathon Descent into the Horror Abyss. Here on the Film Alchemist podcast, you guys know the deal. 31 days, 31 pods. We love horror movies so much here that we celebrate by going absolutely insane and doing 31 podcasts in 31 days. An unheard of, silly, stupid feat that we do as a labor of love. All right, guys, before we get into this amazing episode, one of my favorites we did, a little business. Guys, we're on patreon.com. That's right. You can find us at patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. For as little as $1 a month, you can dip your toes in, see what we're all about, join our Discord, join some Zoom calls, get to know us a little bit. And if you like, if the first taste is enough and you want some more, right, you can go up in tiers. And as you do, you can begin to pick the exact episodes that you want us to cover, guys. Every tier has a certain amount of movies that you're allowed to pick to help us curate a Patreon exclusive library and some more fun over there. You can vote on our bonus episode poll, so you can help us pick the fourth movie of our curation. You can select a stocking stuffer, and then we let the D20 gods decide whose film gets picked, right? So all that said, you go over to patreon.com/filmalchemistpod, and we were going to work hard to earn that dollar, okay? It's the best way to help the show. We appreciate so much those of you who do it. For those of you who do, thank you. For those of you who are about to, thank you as well. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Film Alchemist. We have video versions of most of our podcasts there, along with some other fun stuff we're working on. Make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you find the show. Helps us fight back against those wealthy 1% witches that run their stores as a honeypot to catch us sickly little people just trying to get what's coming to us, right? We're trapped in them. See, that'll come back later, and you'll know that I was telling you the truth. I give you the real deal right here. Yeah, guys, 5-star rating, sensor 2 review means the world to us. Thank you, guys. It helps us find more people to bring into the party. Thank you in advance. You can email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com, or find us on all the social media you're on. We're there too. We're easy to find. We're easy to get a hold of, and we love hearing from you guys. So get a hold of us. Thank you guys for all that you're doing. I know 31 pods is a lot, but it's been a lot of fun. All right. I tap out. No more business. No more of that business. Let's get to it. All right, guys. Today we are talking about The Craft with our dear friend, Carmelita Valdez McKoy. Now, we met Carmelita. She found the show and reached out, and we had her on, and we just kept having her back on. Carmelita is without a doubt one of the best things that's ever happened to the Film Alchemist podcast. Not because she has great taste in movies, not because she is so easy to talk to and we always have great conversations, but because she truly is an amazing friend that we only have now because of this show. So I will always be thankful for that, and I'll always be thankful for the time that Carmelita makes. She is truly one of the best, and we love you, Carmelita. All right, and we will have all of Carmelita's details in the show notes or description, so you guys can find her work. You're going to want to do that. Trust me. Today, Carmelita chose The Craft. Now, The Craft is this just amazing blend of cast and era, right? It's a time machine to the 90s, be that good or bad at times. It's just this amazing film about people getting what they wish for, and if that is always good or bad, man. And we have a pretty interesting argument about the implications of that in this film, which I didn't think we were going to have. They accused me of throwing a grenade into the start of the show. I think it was a truth bomb, not a grenade. You guys will see. This conversation got wild. It went places we absolutely didn't expect. But more than anything, it was just fun as hell. And The Craft is a movie that I've always loved, and I still love to this day. I always appreciate going back to The Craft. So without further ado, guys, we want to thank you again for spending so much time with us this month. It warms our little black hearts, the little cockles of our black hearts. We appreciate it, guys. We appreciate it. Share the word with your friends. But more than anything, guys, enjoy this amazing episode, The Craft with Carmelita Valdez McKoy. everyone. Welcome back to the show. Our friend and one of our favorite guest hosts of all time, Carmelita Valdez McKoy. Welcome back to the October Mega Marathon.
Welcome, Maria.
Oh, gentlemen, I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my
All right,
God.
well, you have selected an amazing film that we're all very excited to talk about. I knew this would be on our list eventually. So glad today.
Spirit, bro.
So
That's right. That's the theme of this movie.
all right, so two things, right? First, would you like to introduce yourself and tell people where they can find you? Second, introduce the movie you selected for this day of October.
I would love to. So, Carmelita on Twitter, on Letterboxd, at Carmelita Says. Find me there. Movies, positivity, music, no bullshit. And we're talking about a 90s classic, The Craft.
The
From
Craft.
1996.
The Craft. The
All right.
grandmommy of all the charmed in the world.
Yeah, I always loved The Craft. It was a strange movie, but it held a very special place in my heart, right? It's this movie for Outcast, right? Kind of. We'll talk about that in the end.
We will.
Carmelita, what about The Craft speaks to you the most? Why is this a movie that you love so much? Let's start there.
So, I was in high school when this came out. So, I was of an age with the characters. I myself was a misfit.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, when this hit, it was like perfect timing. Because I was so miserable in the 90s. I cannot even stress to you how miserable the 90s were. Like, for like a pretty solid stretch there. And so when The Craft came out, it was like very relatable.
Mm-hmm.
And also a little aspirational.
Yep.
And it just tapped into kind of where I was at in my life at the time, and all of my friends, like we all kind of we kind of took ownership of this movie. It was like a thing.
Yeah.
And all these years later, I am now a middle-aged woman. But when I put on The Craft, like I can feel my angst rising, and I get to
It's a true time machine.
Yeah, I get to stew in that again, and that's nice. I like it.
Yeah, my 90s movie, I had two kind of, right? Because the one that I used to watch and be like, this speaks to me was Angus, if you remember that. About the giant kid who just wanted to go to prom. That was the movie I would watch all the time in the 90s and be like, this speaks to me. Even though I was I was very small. But that was like my vibe, right? And then I saw Mallrats, and I began cultivating this Brody vibe. But anywho, I totally understand, and that's the cool thing. All right, before we get going too deep into this, I do want to throw this out up front. Spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen this since the 90s. I was actually stunned today, because my wife was even, why are you rewatching this? You've seen The Craft like 100 times. I was like, yes, that's true. But I want to rewatch The Craft. I actually hate the third act of this film. Like, hate it. Because I think the twist of the movie... Because there's a couple moments of this, right, where you see that the movie realizes that it's a movie for Outcast, but then they're like, box office. And they pull us back, right? And you can see them trying to placate to the straight white girl audience, right, that Sarah embodies. And Breckenmeyer embodies, right? And I think the fact that they're saying, this had that, like, zombie horror movie vibe to me, right? Which the zombie stories were created specifically as... the slaves will rise up and destroy you for abusing them, right? And that's kind of where this theme of horror came from. This movie feels like by the end, it's specifically saying that if you give these misfits, these outsiders, these marginalized people power, they will abuse it and will not be able to be a part of our society. And I thought that really sucked this time. That really pissed me off. What do you make of that, Alex?
Fucking haymaker up front, huh? Jesus
I
Christ.
love The Craft. I've seen, but I'm just saying, we gotta
talk
call
about
it.
how much I thought we were just going to spend like an hour gushing about.
That comes right after. This comes right after I get my lashes in, as it were. This movie betrayed the covenant of my heart. No, I'm just kidding. But I think that's a fair criticism.
It's interesting you put it that way. I wouldn't say the third act is trash. That's
no. Okay, what I'm saying is I don't
that's
like
pretty far.
I don't like the conceit of it. That these
It didn't sit well
marginalized
with
people
you.
become the actual bad guy. Right? And that not
Okay.
only are they just bad, but that they're
Well-
relentlessly horrible.
true.
So what I'm saying is I think the movie is playing to the straight white girl audience and saying, thank God she's here to suppress these fucking horrible less thans and take them back, right? I think they're, and again, I think that the narrative of it works really well, right?
Sure.
But I was struck by how much I really didn't like that for these girls, right? That last scene with those two in the driveway coming to do their fake apology because they want power back. And they're like, she doesn't have power. And she just looks at them with all of her fucking white, rich privilege and calls down the thunder like a fucking class warrior Thor on their asses. I was like, this is a really strange way to end this movie. Carmelita, I saw you react with horror. Do you think this is a fair criticism?
I was not expecting this. You have.
That's what I do.
Griffey-
I bamboozled you.
Griffey fucking McGregor leg broke us right at the top here.
Yeah.
Didn't
No,
he,
I
Carmelita?
glamored you
Jeez.
guys into thinking this is all fun
Like
and
that
games.
just knocked me out of my witchy boots. Like I don't even.
Okay, but now that I've said it, do you see
Okay.
any of that? Like, here, let me give you two more pieces of evidence, right?
Okay.
So this is a wish fulfillment horror movie, right? Be careful what you wish
Sure.
for, right?
Right.
So the scene when we walk in and we see the poor wretch that has become Lizzie Lizerson or whatever the racist fucking swim girl
Laura
is.
Lizzie.
Yeah,
Two
Laura
first names.
Lizzie,
Bad
right?
guys
Like,
always have two first names.
she was just created by Stan Lee to walk around and be a racist, right? So
Right,
she's in the
yes.
shower and her hair's falling out. She's all Gollum in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
What did I do to deserve this? And it's like, I don't know, be a horrible racist
You're a
piece
horrible
of shit.
racist piece of shit.
And that the movie is specifically asking us in that moment to take pity on her and her plight. And I was like, I don't take pity on her at all.
I'm not sure that's how I ever interpreted that moment.
You don't think that's them telling the audience, like, we know that you don't want to be victimized by these bitches of Eastwick, as they call it.
No, honestly, because like that has so much. Well, it's interesting. To me, that moment is not about Laura Lizzie. That moment is about Rachel True's character.
Yeah.
What is her character? Rochelle.
Rochelle.
Rochelle's character is realizing the power she wields is far greater than anything she thought she had. So, like, all she wanted to do was teach someone a lesson. It is a wish fulfillment thing. It's
And
be
how
careful what you
does
wish for.
this
Exactly.
play out, though? She becomes even worse when she sees that she can destroy this girl. I don't know. This thing really
it's the
sat wrong with
maxim
me
that's
today.
Hang on, but it's the maxim that's in any movie like this. Any movie about people who acquire great power, who are quote unquote less thans from a certain social perspective. Always, this story always plays out. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like that's what happens through
Right.
and through. So,
And I understand that, but I hate the idea that the people who most need these wishes, right, to right a wrong, right? Because I feel like every girl, one of the best scenes in the movie, right, is when we start to see every girl's kind of struggle that she's dealing with, right? The racism, the broken home with the creepy stepdad, whatever the fuck he is, right? We see Nev Campbell's burns. That was really traumatic one.
that was absolutely.
And then Sarah's is just like, I'm so rich. Meh.
Yeah,
like, it's just it's weird. There's a dynamic there that was very
Robin
strange.
Tooney's problems are much more about the psychological damage, like
Right.
her mother's death and her personal
Okay, now this
issues.
is something else I had forgot. I thought her mother died when she was a teen. Her mother's been
No.
dead for like 18 years, and I understand that this is still traumatic, but that was something else I had not remembered from the film. I feel like I am just like throwing bombs at you guys and derailing
I
the
just
whole
I
don't
did
think.
not see this coming.
Yeah, I mean, this is not how I
I do
expected
love
to
The
open
Craft.
the pod, which is like, hey, we're talking about The Craft. The third act is terrible. Here's why. Like, that's not where I thought we were going with
it
this.
sat raw. I think narratively it
I
functions
get what
fine.
you're
I
saying.
think there's a 90s subtext that they know that their audience are straight white people who are afraid of Veruza Balk and black people and people with disabilities. And I think they know that about the average audience of the 90s. And I think it's just one of those weird things that a movie that has become so empowering, as Carmelita said, has this subtext of, we're sorry. to the straight white audiences that would buy tickets to it. I think that's a weird element of this film.
This is how I would spin it.
Okay.
This is my spin on it. This is kind of how because I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, like there's a way to read it where yes, it's kind of shitty that the misfits become so corrupted, and like, what's the message in that?
Yeah.
What I think the way I've always thought about it is like, if you get the power, don't become one of those assholes.
Yes.
Oh,
like
that's
the
good.
assholes
I like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is.
that victimized you, that oppressed you, that kept you down.
Right.
Wield your power better. You can be better than that.
Right. And
It's not about
here's
my
my
case.
question, though, right? Could they not have accomplished that better by maybe having Brenda, whatever Nev Campbell's character name is,
Fun.
maybe have one of the people who's the most traumatized in the movie actually be the one who can responsibly wield the power? Veruza Balk's character,
Maybe.
right, as Nancy, is a classic tragic tale, right? A lot of movies have this. The person who is so abused that her only wish in this movie is to have enough power to punish the rest, right? And I think there is a real power in the end of the movie, right? All that Sarah is taking from her is, I bind you from doing harm to yourself or others.
Mm-hmm.
And she launches into a vicious attack because that's the exact power she wants, right? I understand that, but it's still hard to see her in that fucking bed at the end of the movie, right? There's a real... It's just hard to see someone constantly be so fucking put down. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
I think there's a way... Anyways, we don't have to do a whole pod on this. But it was something that just sat really strange with me today, because it had been a couple years since I had watched this. And I just was like, wow, the 90s, man. Like, we were still in that place in the 90s, you know?
Oh, yeah. No, and I think that's... for a new audience to see this, or for someone to revisit this now where we are in 2021, yes, I can see like that read being very like whoa, what just happened? And in the 90s, that was not the case.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing too, is that maybe this is how it goes, right? Maybe this is how our world has functioned for a really long time. But again, I think that the beauty of The Craft is, I think, how many people saw that and just gleaned power from it. It became a totem of power to so many of us that it felt weird to rewatch it and be like, oh shit, because I'm one of those people, I always think the 90s was last decade. You know what I mean? You're like, now as I get older, you're like, oh, the 90s were a long time ago, and there's a lot of weird shit going on back then. All right, Alex, start me off with, what's something you love about The Craft?
Oh, besides
How dare you?
What? I said
How dare
besides. I didn't even start anything. I didn't
This
say
is the
anything.
thing. You're Nancy. You're going to victimize me for my opinions.
I just wasn't expecting to deal with Griffey's wokeness at the top of the show. But I thought maybe a little bit later, but
How dare you? How dare you? As an avatar for all of humanity, I'll take your arrows. You Lizzie Lizardton, you.
oh my goodness. If anybody's a Nancy in this group, it's definitely Griff.
That's true. I would not be responsible with power
you
ever.
would
I've
be
been
very
upfront with that.
irresponsible. I can see us having to bind you like almost immediately.
Yeah. No, I've always been upfront about that. I know for a fact.
I bind you, Griffey.
Oh, things are getting bad and worse. Like it would
Thanks,
be like,
guys.
we got to bind this guy like right
Yeah,
now.
I'd be like, can you guys just bind me? This is too tempting. I want to go back to binging.
I always enjoy the parable of the whole story is what I like the most. Like I think The Craft does a lot of great things. Like obviously Lights My Fire with Robin Tooney, who I have loved from, I don't know, most of my adult life.
There it is. That's your lens. See, I knew it. No wonder you can't.
Sorry, she's lovely. She's a lovely woman. I don't know what to tell you. Nev Campbell too. But yeah, so but no, like for me, it's always been such a fascinating. Yeah, like the absolute power corrupting story is what I think is most interesting about it. Like Veruza Balk puts on this performance that like anybody else, people would be like, that is some fucking horrible scene chewing, overacting nonsense. But she is just like, she starts that movie so well by not doing anything weird. And then as soon as they have the invoking the spirit moment, the scene on the beach afterwards, like I've always been like super uncomfortable with that. Like it creeps me out. But she's like, she is so weird and creepy. Just that scene alone, I'm just like, dude, that anybody else, this would have just been like a fucking mess. And she's so good and terrifying simply by being like enamored with the power she wields. Like that above everything else is what I think makes her performance that much more thrilling. Like everything from that moment on where she's like fully in control, quote unquote, of these powers she's invoked is, I mean, just every scene she's in is a hit. Like for me, like every single time. And it's only because she starts the movie being downtrodden. Like it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie when they're all like having their, all of them are talking about like their spells essentially working. They've all cast their spells, and like Laura Lizzie's losing her hair, and Rochelle's like she has to wear like a hat now. It's really sad. And Fairuza Balk's character,
she has to wear a $500 hat to school every day.
Yeah. So like Nancy gets up and walks away, and they're like, "What's wrong with her?" And Rachel True has just got this just off the cuff. She goes, "Well, I don't know. She's just sad. She's she's sad. She's still white trash or something. I guess." Like I was like, "Honey,
right?
You're white trash. I don't know what to tell you." It's like even in that moment, everyone's kind of like high school judgmental, but like,
and they cut to like the Parasite shot, right? Like it only rains on the floor, and it's like, what the fuck? There's a dog that's just standing in the rain. It doesn't even walk over 2 feet to get under awning because even the poor dog is like, I don't deserve an umbrella.
But like, I love like that beat right there.
I agree.
So because she's so upset, like she's so upset that the things she wants in life have not worked out, but everyone else's are like these weird minuscule things. Like not minuscule, I guess that's incorrect to say, but like very personalized things. Like Rochelle's character wants this one girl to stop bothering her and stop being a horrible racist asshole. Like those are like the thing, like that's absolutely wanted. This other girl just wants to feel pretty. Like Bonnie feels terrible about herself. So when she gets some form of confidence, she takes it for a ride, man. Of course she would.
All right, well let's let Carmelita go on that, right? Let's talk about this because I'll one up Alex. I think this movie actually doesn't become a cult classic at all without Fairuza Balk's character. Because I think
that's not a one up. That's 100% truth.
I think she's the avatar, right? I think we all want to be one of the other girls, but know that we would be Nancy given the choice, right? So, Carmelita, talk me through the dynamics of this group and their personal journeys, right? What about this group works so well?
You know, I think it's when we start this journey, it's really kind of interesting because in the beginning, Bonnie, Neve Campbell's character, she's the one that's looking for the fourth.
Yeah.
Like initially, Nancy is kind of just down to do their thing, just the three of them, even though having this fourth would help them to do these more powerful spells.
Right.
But it's Bonnie
or
that
spells,
is really
period.
like...
Do we know that they've ever been able to cast a spell without the fourth?
I don't think
really
so.
say.
I
like,
think it's
they've
been
doing
a matter
rituals,
of just,
but
it's a matter of ritual and study rather than it being able to like actually complete spells.
Right.
Right. And so I like how in the beginning it's like it very much reminds me of like groups of girls who spend all their time together and they kind of gravitate around this one thing. In this case, in this movie, it's neo-paganism. And, you know, but they're like, it's their shield. Because they're the bitches of Eastwick. No one talks to them, but they're safe in their little group.
Right.
And it seems like, for the most part, they were content with where they were in terms of like their practice. But I think it's like really interesting once you introduce the Sarah character who has these natural abilities and how that jump starts.
Well, yeah, that's like the thing too. She's a natural witch, correct? Yeah. That's like that's like part of the deal. She doesn't have to do much to like actually have that power.
Right. But I like to like
I see your face, Griffey. Don't even start that.
I mean, I'm just saying, it was there for us the whole time. We just weren't advanced enough to see it.
Oh God, it's gonna be
each of these young women are struggling with some really serious shit.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it's heavy.
Like you have racism that Rochelle's dealing with. Bonnie's dealing with body image issues. You've got Sarah who's dealing with presumably depression, but definitely she's been suicidal.
Yeah.
That's pretty serious. You've got Nancy who's dealing with, seems like, drunk parents, domestic violence, poverty. Then like, and even like in that whole, like in the beginning, you have like, they're dealing with, you know, assholes at school and then sexual harassment and having someone lie and tell the whole school that you fucked when you didn't. And there's like rape, like there's a lot of really serious stuff in here. And it's stuff that we didn't talk about as openly in the 90s.
No.
Even though
no, not a chance.
So many of us were experiencing these things. So I think that's part of what this movie did for a lot of people, is that it kind of broached some of these topics. Mm-hmm. It doesn't go into great depth.
Well, again, I think this gets back to knowing that the average audience of the 90s,
right?
Because this is
maybe not ready.
Being a teenager in that era, right? I think it's one of those strange times as a teenager. We kind of joke, right, that we like teenage stories because everything's the most important, this and that.
Yeah.
But it is this very strange time where you're butting up against harsh realities, right? Mm-hmm. With your body, with the way other people see your body, with, you know, class and work and, you know, oh, you're a C-level student, you're an A. Like, we're starting to, you know, stratify ourselves. Right. And so there's a lot of really big, heavy shit that's happening to essentially still children, right?
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that kind of part of the movie's really relatable, right? And I think back then, too, there was a real... My parents never wanted to talk about sex with me. That was if it was on the TV, we change it. If it's on the movie, the DVD's coming out, right? We're going to pretend we didn't see or hear any of this.
No, totally.
That's just how it was back then. So again,
sure, this
movie was way ahead of its time in that regard in what they were willing to show us, right? And I think that's the part that, to me, that's the part that solidifies the movie. And I think what made me sad today watching it is I will never forget the... you know, girls having their own struggles and through the power of friendship, right? Like when they got off the bus at wherever that was, right? The Vineyards or wherever, to just go do their ritual in the woods. And he's like, hey, watch out for the weirdos. We are the weirdos, mister. You're like, it's like this anthem, right? You're like, yeah, man. These girls, if you have just a couple friends, right? The rest of the scary shit can be held at bay. And they go out and there is this, you know, I enter with perfect faith and perfect heart, you know, perfect trust, that kind of thing. There is this bonding sisterhood, and you see them start to get a glow up from finding the power from within the group, right? And them walking through this school that we've seen be so scary and traumatizing, them walking through with power, right? Not the power to harm, but just the power to be themselves, right? And be happy in who they are. As you said, right? A lot of us had these kind of outsider taste or hobbies, and we would take them to such extremes because that was our character we were building for the rest of the school to see, right? Mm-hmm. That's the shit about the movie that I absolutely loved. And I hated seeing these fucking lovely girls in this group that I bonded with just fucking be torn asunder, man. But the one, let's talk about Neve Campbell's journey, because this one I thought was really poignant. The idea of her just weeping and saying, I want to be beautiful, I thought that was something that I'm sure a lot of audiences found very relatable in high school. I think a lot of us had body issues back then, and I don't think it's nearly as prevalent for us boys as it was for the ladies right back then. But, you know, having to like shower in school and this and that. I thought it was really strange for this girl, and I think to your point, that's a great point. She was the one desperately seeking the fourth.
Yeah.
Right? She didn't feel like she could just exist as she was, right? However she got these burns. What did you make of this segment of the movie, Alex?
I mean, particularly Bonnie's story, like,
yeah,
that's. I mean,
the beauty
it's
is pain, gene therapy stuff, right? There's a lot going on with her.
I mean, it's the most poignant because hits everything that is horrible about high school. Like, yeah, like guys, obviously it's very different, but like, you know, my wife, everybody I know had body issues at some point when they were younger.
Well, your
like,
body's just mutating and you have no
horrible.
ability to stop it.
So like, not only that, like your body's mutating, you have no ability to stop it. And then on top of that, you add like whatever is going on with Bonnie, which is like clearly not, I did not have that experience when I was in high school. I did not have burns all over my back. Like there's a whole other aspect to this that is like, like there's body issues, but then she's also like, I'm not normal. Like there's this there's this denormalization of Bonnie's self. So like there's all this otherness going on for Bonnie's story itself that ends up being like, I mean, to me, like, honestly, besides Fairuza Balk's performance, like one of the crux arguments of the movie is just like, she needs the win. Like, that's why, like, after they do the spell and her spell starts working and like literally like the scars like melt off, which is like amazing because she has this like moment she turns around, she's a little choked up. The next shot is her walking into class and she's like her like low cut shirt on, like she's there and you're like
short sleeves, like in the beginning it's all long
she's like
sweaters.
Ready to go, man.
But it's not even
awesome.
Like a fucking full like beach tank top, right? It just doesn't have sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
And just taking the sweater off, she feels so freed. Because the scars work as this like witch's mark, right? Totally. She's literally branded by her past, right? I thought that was, and it's also one of those sad things for a high school drama because everyone else is wishing for something for them. Mm-hmm. And while hers, like, wanting to be beautiful is for you.
Right.
But also the core of who is the only one who can enjoy your beauty? Someone else who has the eyes that behold, right? So it is this very outward thinking wish, right? She just wants everyone else to see her as she wishes. And I think that's it's strange because they capture it really well in this movie because that's a really hard thing to capture, right? You get the like teen makeover scene in a lot of movies. They're like, you know, bouncing your hair around school.
Right.
And hers just felt so much
That's my favorite
truer.
one, man. That's the honest one. She's like, I'm a new person. All I have to do is get rid of this sweater. Like, I'm the right person already. So she like literally just takes off one layer of clothing and it's the person she wants to be. Like, that is the thing that I loved the most about Bonnie's whole thing. Like, obviously, you know, she, I guess, learns a lesson of some kind at some point. Yeah,
she learns a lesson. Keep your sweater on, other. That's what I mean. Every one of these women needed a win except for Sarah. Sarah did, you know, try to take her life and has some kind of issues with that. She also got
branded like a slut by Skeet Ulrich, the worst.
I agree. Those are not great moments, right? That's not great things to have to deal with, but I would argue the other girls need the win a little bit more, right? And I think watching Neve Campbell's character get to take the one thing, right, that her whole life has been based around this scar, this accident, however that happened.
Oh, yeah.
What if in high school you were able to take that one thing away you hated about yourself and you could just present what you want? I thought that was lovely.
It was awesome.
It's
right?
beautiful.
Carmelita, what do you make of this bit of the film?
No, I really like it. And it's kind of interesting. Did you know that originally Robin Tunney was cast to be Bonnie?
Yes.
And then they decided that they wanted her for the lead of Sarah. And so then they brought in Neve Campbell and recast.
Who at that point was the most famous in the cast because of Party of Five. Party of Five, I was trying to figure out if Party of Five was happening then, and then I read about it. Yes, Party of Five was going on at this point.
Yeah, when this came out, like, I kind of recognized Fairuza Balk, like, but it took a minute because the last thing I had seen her in was
Return to Oz.
Yeah. Yes.
When she was like itty bitty.
Yeah.
So
I had seen the Waterboy
not really
before this, I
recognizable.
think. Yeah.
And so it was like Neve Campbell, Party of Five, like I knew her.
Yeah.
And so it was really interesting, but I thought she did a really good job of portraying like this sincerity and this vulnerability.
Yes.
Yeah.
She did a really good job of that. and it really sells this character who someone might look at her wish and say, oh, that's vanity, but it's not.
It's not.
It's about coming out and not having to hide anymore.
Exactly right.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and so I think her performance really sells that.
Yeah, I just thought that part was great. Because honestly, I think Rochelle's story is like this too, right? Rochelle is the one character. Because there's a weird dynamic of this school, right? This plays like a super rich school, right? But yeah,
it's not.
Fairuza Balk's there, right? So something's happening. Like, I don't know how Fairuza Balk is in this school. Everyone else has a big ass house or something, right? So we see some of this going on.
Right.
Rochelle,
it's a Catholic high school.
You know, it's a private school.
That's a private school, and that shit cost a lot. I mean, this movie has a very weird money line anyways, right? Like when the Nancys get $175,000 and they go on a shopping spree.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, you couldn't rent an apartment in LA for that much.
It's 96 in Los Angeles. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm so glad you brought this up because I was going to address it later.
Well, this was San Fran too, right? And I was like, Jesus H, yeah, right.
$175,000, like, I don't think you can move. Like they moved into that.
They probably could have put that couch in their trailer. That's how much $175K would be.
Like it was always a weird thing, and like,
well, it's such a good reveal because he's got his briefcase. Like we're talking huge value.
I love
like,
that.
Oh
scene.
shit, they moving on up next to Sarah, and they're like, no, not next to Sarah.
Yeah,
$175K,
$175,000. And then,
granted, that'd be a lot of money for anyone.
Half the money goes to that fucking jukebox the mom bought. Like that.
Yeah, the jukebox and the couch blow a huge portion of their penthouse. But maybe Nancy's got like a line.
She loves Connie Francis. What do you?
Loves Connie Francis.
Loves Connie Francis.
That mom is the fucking saddest.
She's the best.
When she's trying to follow them to the room.
I know.
Like, guys, let's have a house. And they're like, shut the door on her.
The mom moments in this movie, by the way, the one that I've like, the one that I actually like say because I say just like in general is Bonnie's mom when they're doing Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board, and they drop her right as she walks up. Every time it's the line read, it's like, oh my god, are you girls getting high? Like I'm just like, I've said that in life just because I'm like, that's an amazing line. Like
it's good.
The moms in this are just the best. They're just oblivious, but kind of not. But they're like, oh, we just want to be friends.
Notice
like,
how
everyone wants to be
quickly
a cool
the
mom.
girls just fucking drop Rochelle like she's nothing. No, I'm just kidding. So, anyway, but that's what I mean. So back to Rochelle.
There it is again.
She's the one character, right, who cannot hide and blend in. Right? Sarah is rich. I would assume that Bonnie's character is rich, right? Fairuza Balk is definitely not hiding, but a lot of that is she has this aggressive, in-your-face personality, right?
Right.
Rochelle can't hide. She may be the only African-American person we see in the whole film, right? And there's very pointed imagery of them not wanting her in the pool, right? The hair thing. There's a lot of strange bits in this. I mean, they just straight up drop the massive racism in the locker room, right?
I don't know about you guys. This has always struck me as odd because I don't think about, especially because it takes place in California. Like I don't think about that kind of thing. And it's weird that like Laura Lizzie's character is just like that outspokenly racist. I always like felt that. I was like, that feels so strange to have a character like that in high school be that racist. Like it's a weird dichotomy because like it's just not one of those things that I ever expected. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was thinking like, that is just like so hateful and weird to be like that much again, like that.
I'll bet you a lot of listeners would be like, I absolutely know. And that's the thing, being in high school.
Exist. Right. Sorry, not to be naive. I know they exist. It's just always
had a lot of that. Like we had one African-American kid who they used to call him the Fresh Prince of Rossville, right? Which was my small town because he got in trouble in Brooklyn. And through just this sad turn of fate, had to come live in our little one stoplight town.
Poor guy.
And it was just the things you would hear said. Like people trying to be in on the, oh, we can make jokes like this around. It was really strange, right? And so, yeah, that's one of those things that leaps out at you in the movie is her wish is like, can this person just stop being a piece of shit to me?
Yeah.
just because I'm existing, right? And I think that's another one of those that the backstories of these girls are just so deep, right? Like, unlike a lot of high school movies, a lot of them are very surface, right? No boys will talk to me, my clothes aren't good enough, right? John Hughes did a couple, there's one poor kid in school riffs.
Right.
These are so much more fleshed out than most high school portrayals, right? And having to watch a character deal with the weight of, fucking just in-your-face racism in an all-white Catholic school, or a girl who feels like she has to hide, or Veruza Balk who's just has to go home to this fucking broken, horrible home, and God knows the guy's making passes about how thin her outfit is and shit.
Oh, yeah.
You feel this deep empathy for these fucking girls. Again, and I think Sarah's is kind of, they try, but I never latched onto her the same way. And so it just sucks, man. I wanted them to get a win. I wanted all of these girls to get the win. And when they start to turn in the third act, I would say probably about the car scene, right? So this is after the invocation of the spirit, right? Where the hippie lady who runs the, power geologically located power hippie store, right? Who, by the way, just lets them steal books knowing that they're all going to fucking suffer.
I love her. I love the OG.
Okay. Walk me through the hippie store
shopkeeper.
Lady. Is she the secret villain of the movie, Carmelita?
No.
Is she not the 1% just helping fucking punish?
Jesus.
No.
Good Lord.
So
I'm telling you, it's all there, Alex.
I mean, I've seen a lot of these stores in my lifetime.
Oh, for sure. I love those stores.
And and I used to live in Santa Cruz, California, where there's a big new age thing goes on.
Well, the vampires, yeah.
Right. So, in addition, and so this lady is so perfectly cast because she's got the look of like new age, lady who runs the crystal store.
Yeah, perfect crystal
store lady.
Perfect
crystal store lady. Yeah. But I think what I really like about this particular, I think the actress's name is Assumpta Serna. She's a Spanish actress. Her casting is great, and I love her attitude. Like, she knows these girls are stealing. It's small potatoes.
No.
This lady is This lady is OG. She's dealing with cosmic energy.
Well, that part's true.
Yeah.
She fucking pulled the wool over your eyes, Carmelita. That's not what she's
not
doing.
bothered. And
no. What? She's the serpent in Eden.
No, and rule of three, man. It comes back threefold. So she's like, you know what? Yeah, go ahead, steal, find out what happens.
Exactly. She's giving them the forbidden knowledge to destroy themselves. She wants them to steal these books. I don't trust her. I don't like her.
I love her. I love her
to me, the people who run those stores should only be able to afford the last store in the mall, like here in Indiana. And they got to sell swords in their store, too. That's what our versions are. There's a lot of swords and tapestries, along with the crystals and whatever. I think, because that struck me, is she just doesn't give a fuck that these girls are stealing. And it seems like a lot. They have a lot of accessories, right? They're like the Miami Heat's Mike Miller, who just had like 50 armbands to come in and play like 1 minute.
We're talking about the craft here, not sports, Griff. What are you doing, man?
Hey,
come on.
I am, like I said, I'm an avatar for all of mankind. So my sports brethren, I give them a little taste. I give a little taste to all the peoples. But when I look up 90s Mike Miller, or just Google Mike Miller accessories, and I'm telling you it'll pop up. He was the most accessorized basketball player who never played in all of history. But that's what happens. So these girls steal a fucking lot. And I think she's like a Goosebumps character, right? Like, she just lets them steal and then laughs when they come back and they're like, it's all gone horribly wrong.
It's all wrong.
Yeah, I thought she was creepy as hell, man.
I mean, that's probably why I like her.
You like the punishment. You like the
I like
creepy.
I like creepy. A creepy is like, that's where I live. So, like, I'm all about it. And, and that's the thing with teenagers, right? Like, and that's one of the things that's interesting about watching this movie, like revisiting it as an adult, is that teenagers are awful.
Just the fucking worst.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real.
Like,
they're
Breckin Meyer in this movie is so exactly how I remember high school people being. He's so good in this movie and just hateable. But he's like spot on
worst.
exactly what high school was like for me.
Absolutely.
When Bonnie walks into the classroom after they wipe away all her scars, and he's just
When
like,
she's the head of the coven.
yeah, like, hey, what's up? Like, dude, come on, man. Like, in every single scene, he has one of those bits. You're just like, come on, jeez. But yeah, he's the avatar for every single high school guy who like tangentially played a sport, but was not like star of the class.
Right. His
That,
buddy was the quarterback.
Yeah, he was like the quarterback's friend, but he was like, it was like
the quarterback's fluffer.
yeah, pretty much. Like not even second string. He was like the guy who was like the water boy, but it was my friend. You know, it's all good.
He was one of those actors that was in so many things in this era.
A lot of things.
But I thought he was so good, man. And in this again, he's one of those guys, is like the memes go around, who got the assignment. Like he's just perfect in this movie, right? It's not a huge role, but it takes you, again, this whole movie is very transportative to me. But him specifically, like, sent shivers down my spine of how many guys like that you would try to appease and be friends with, because you knew they were kind of like the hype man of the group you wanted to be cool with, or else they would like make your life hell. So all the like bad jokes you had to like or like try to be cool to that guy even though he was the biggest douche. Like it really, I was like getting sweats. I was like, oh God, just remembering like these horrible hallway experiences.
All those, like the double talk that Skeet Ulrich does to like tell everyone that fucking Sarah's a slut. And like, you know, Skeet Ulrich's he just has that face, man. He's just like that. Like
it's strange because this is the movie that gave him like the $10 supercut coupon hairdo.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so unsettling.
He has that like, it's weird that
he's too handsome for that hair. Like that doesn't work.
What's fascinating is it's this hair and it's this
Carmelita
hair
knows what I'm saying.
Well, it's this hair and this one, and then in like Scream, he's got the same like 90s. He's got like the 90s do for like the kid who.
But when you see him in Scream, it's like this flowing hair, and you're like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
that guy's
it's got
the heartbreaker.
movement.
Yeah,
it's got movement.
This one's sports hair. It's
yeah,
like
this is it's Tuesday. The coupon's expiring. Let's go. Yeah, right, the barber who chain smokes while he cuts your hair's got 5 minutes to do you.
Yeah,
no good.
Yeah, no, it's the high and tight. That's what you do when you're when you're in sports and
when you're QB1.
When you're QB1 at whatever Catholic high school this guy's going to, that's your haircut. But he is so that's the cringe for me, man. His character, the entire movie, I'm just like, dude, that is something that I remember. Not me personally, but people that I went to high school with dealing with, where people would like, you go to a party and the next week you find out, they all slept together. Wow, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. None of that ever happened. It was just like some fucking guy walking around talking shit. And you're just like, and again, it's one of those shocking things when you watch when you're 34. And I was like, people like this existed. I cannot believe
they
probably still exists.
It's oh no, I'm sure they're still out there, but like it's.
I was on the receiving end of some of those rumors.
Really?
In high school.
What?
Oh yeah.
God, dude.
Oh yeah, dude.
What
high school. Supposedly, I was pregnant like 2 times. Like that went around the school a few times.
That must have been quite the surprise for you when you.
It was hilarious. My best friend, like we met
God.
between periods, and she's like, "Oh, you know what I heard today?" And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "You're pregnant." I'm like, "Really? What am I having?" Like,
do I need to buy some stuff? What's up?
This would happen all the time.
Wow.
I was like the prime target for that stuff in high school.
Yikes. Well, thankfully for
Carmelita
me, I guess it would have been
so
outlandish to assume that I got laid. Like, I never would have had the gall.
Yeah, I never had those rumor problems because, it would have been just like shocking.
The weirdest one for me is I was in high school and everyone just assumed I had done all the drugs. And so, like, one of my biggest lies was someone's like, hey, man, we heard that you have a guy who can get us peyote. I'm like, yeah, I do that all the time. That was like the coolest lie I could get away with. They just thought I was the guy because I came from like a bigger school. That I knew guys who could get peyote in the fucking late 90s in Indiana.
Peyote, that's a deep cut for the late 90s, yeah.
But the moment I would have said, like, yeah, this one girl, she let me, under the panties, and they'd be like, stop. Come on, not you. Not welcome. We're going to shred your fake Costco card. You're out. Like, you're not a part of the club. It would have been impossible.
I never had good rumors about me. So,
never.
You know, I was super boring. What do you?
It doesn't seem fun. It doesn't seem
It's not fun, no.
It seems horrible.
Yeah, you have to kind of like toughen up. Like you kind of develop the thick skin. Like you have to like come to a place of not giving a shit. But yeah, no, it's awful.
Well, let's go into this then. So these girls, right, who are dealing with this, because again, I think Sarah's played very much as kind of has a pretty good setup, right? And we do find out that she hurts herself, and you know this is her big struggle of the movie, right? Is this lie? What happens in your mind when this for two guys who were just not even on? We weren't even in the like stadium of play that this could happen to us.
No.
Oh yeah.
I honestly don't know what that mindset would be like. What runs through your head when you find out these rumors are spreading?
So when you first get wind, at least this is my experience.
If you want to talk about it, if you don't, that's
absolutely
absolutely
I'm
fine.
happy to.
I can start throwing more haymakers.
No. Like initially there's kind of like that shock, like wait, what? Which she did a really good job of playing that. That was like a very authentic, very like that's kind of the initial reaction is kind of like, wait, what?
Oh man, and then the girl snickering in the corner.
Oh yeah, and then it's like you're kind of there's no right way to respond. If you deny it vehemently, then they're like, oh, it must be true, because you wouldn't be denying it so hard if it wasn't true. God. If you don't say anything, oh, it must be true. See, she didn't even deny it. Like, there's no way to win.
Fucking zero sum, yeah. That's
there's no way to win. So you just kind of have to like pick which one of those crap options you want to go with.
Mm-hmm.
I always went with the ignore it because it was like there's no point.
Yeah.
Right.
But
that's kind of it's kind of interesting then Sarah's reaction, like the pivot is then to essentially join the coven. Like that's the new rumor. Like it's interesting to like put it to rest by simply deciding to like kind of lean into this group of other misfits that all
give them something else to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really, I mean, knowing that now, because again, I was in fucking marching band. I'm not cool enough for this. But like, that is like one of those things where like.
You were the one time at band camp kid?
I was the fucking drum major. So yes. But yeah, like.
It's an important part of the band.
That's right. I was awesome. Tuba for 3 years, drum major for
I was
2.
the guy down below the bleacher selling peyote while you were
Griffey was apparently selling peyote. What a weird drug to like ask for.
Because now I've cultivated a look that's way more believable than back then when I also had the $5 supercut coupon haircut.
But it's interesting that so Sarah basically takes the pivot and decides to start a whole new rumor, which is like, well, I'm actually this part of this group of a whole other group of people that you all guys everyone considers a misfit anyways. And then essentially it's almost like she leans in. Like it's a really fascinating thing she decides to do.
Let's talk about this, right? I'll send this to you, Carmelita. So there is there's a strangeness in the Skeet Ulrich story in this movie, right?
Yeah.
And he's the guy who needs comeuppance, right?
Oh yeah.
It is hard to watch his self fall apart in this movie, right? And it's very extreme, right? How this curse actually works. I think it might be one of the best getting what you deserve parts of the film. What did you make of her decision to not just punish him in a way, but to you work for me now, right? What did you make of this part of the movie?
Well, you know. And I think that you're right. Like it's the most it's like the purest distillation of that type of story, right? And it's one that's been done elsewhere. The way that it's done here is really interesting because you know when this whole chain of events gets going, she hasn't really known him that long.
No,
they've been on some dates, and then the rumor thing happened. But I think what's really interesting about it is that she's she's still attracted to him. She still likes him, but she's also kind of repulsed by his actions. There's like a push and pull. There's like, she doesn't hate him.
Mm-hmm. Well, she
is
even
still
says
attracted
after
to him.
his death, right? Underneath it all, I still think he was a good guy. And you're just, where was the evidence of that? But, you know, I mean, I think that's the...
Was there another movie made while we were making this one that we didn't know anything?
The heart desires what the heart desires, I guess. But yeah, he's a horrible monster, man.
Which, I mean, it happens sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes
absolutely.
we want people that are not good for us.
Right.
And we want to believe, like we project onto them the things we want them to be, whether they are or not. So it is really kind of interesting that, like, I don't think she set out to punish him, but love spells always go wrong in the movie. Don't do the love spell. It's bad news.
I think you could argue all spells in movies go bad.
They do.
She even says when her and Nancy are fighting, right, there's a scene in she says there isn't a spell that makes everything go back to okay. And I was like, that's a really perfect line for this kind of a film.
Right.
Yeah,
and the scene when they're walking into mass, right? She's like, hold my shit and sit by me and be a good boy, right? And Breckenmeyer's trying to, like, get him to bro out. I was like, that is a sweet, like, perfect revenge on him for what he did. Because to your point, there's no good option when someone does this to you. That feels like the best fucking option.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You know, now he's going to be my caddy and carrying this shit around, right?
Yeah. And
that seems to work really well.
And at that point, it's a pretty harmless thing. Mm-hmm. Of course, the thing doesn't stay harmless because the love, like him falling in love through the love spell, is not love. He's like obsessed, and he's like, like zombie status.
Well, it turns into just full on lust. It turns into lust, is what happens.
Well, that was the sad scene, right? Which was when she lost her sisterhood with the coven. And he's like, hey, just come out with me. I can see what you look like on the phone. You're like, don't get in that fucking car. But she does, and she's just trying to find someone to talk to, someone she can chat about her current state. And when he just goes for her, man, it's fucking horrifying. And again, that she just plays it as this, you know, there's just a blankness. He wasn't there. And I started thinking back to what the evil fucking breadcrumb hippie witch was saying, the one who's trying to destroy these teens. When she was
the one
like,
who's doing a service by getting rid of teenagers? Yes. Her?
Hey.
That is our old man speaking.
Her, the true hero of the story? Yes.
The me that used to love this film all the way through, right, would hate that you said that. But this is, there is something she said, though, right? Where she's like, magic is always lovely and cruel in equal parts, right? It comes from your heart. Right. So through his actions, the magic is revealing what's underneath him, right? And she's trying to defend away like, oh, it's my fault. I thought that was just an insanely poignant observation of the film, whether that was intentional or not. But just this, like, her trying to blame herself for what he had done.
Right.
Right? I thought that was really intense, man. Now, the second part of his story that we need to discuss is when Nancy finds out. And she's like, I got
it's one of my favorite scenes. It's
so
good.
Now, Carmelita, I got to ask you about this.
Please.
What the fuck is Nancy doing? Because I thought this was a really sad scene to me. I thought this was a sad moment for Nancy.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is kind of sad.
Because Nancy has all the powers of Momo or whoever,
Manon.
right? Manon, right? Yeah, sorry. So Manon, right? She's been given this gift. She's walked on water. She's gotten to pet the fins of dead sharks and whatever the hell else she wants, right? Now she's living in her insanely cheap penthouse apartment. In this moment, right, we're led to think that she's going to get revenge for her friend who's been assaulted, right? And the first thing I started thinking is like, wait a sec, why doesn't she break the spell again? Like, why not just break the love spell, right? Release them of the bond. When she goes in, there is... Now, do you read this as like a temptress scenario? To me, it felt like she desperately wanted him to love her and give her that recognition, which is a weird motive
and he had rejected
in this
her.
moment.
Like, they have a history.
So she has all this power, but in that moment, she's still reduced to, I'm not good enough for this fucking asshole. What did you make of that bit?
Because she's a teenage girl, dude.
That's true.
All this power.
That's a good point.
But she's still a teenager with all of those insecurities, with all of that wanting to be loved or desired or accepted. Like, and Nancy has that chip on her shoulder, and she has this really thick skin, and she plays it real aggressive in people's face, like, I don't care what people think of me. But deep down, every single human being, even the most hardened of us, wants somebody to want you and to like you and to accept you. And I think with all the power that she has, this guy that she has all this history with that ended up rejecting her, with all the power that she has, he still doesn't want her. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough pill to swallow.
Well, even more so, right? Because he had her.
Right.
And then was like, he had gotten what he wanted and just fucking trashed her. But I thought the scene when, now Alex, I don't know if you felt this way, when she does the glamour to then look like Sarah, it almost broke my heart, man. Like, I forgot how mean this movie is to these three girls that need wins. That one legit broke my heart. That Nancy thought it was better to be Sarah and get love that way.
I'm not sure I'd characterize it that way.
Like, why? She could have just, like, puppet mastered him into the sex, right? Like, just totally, like, taking him over. The being Sarah was really just sad, man.
Well, to Carmelita's point, yeah, like, everybody wants this form of love. Like, everybody wants to be wanted, of course. Sure. However, I do think in this scene, like, the want that Nancy has much more to do with retaliation and dominance than it does for actual like romantic love. Her glamoring as Sarah has much more to do with trapping Skeet Ulrich than it does to do with anything else. She's taking the power that she has and using it in a way that she's already seen Skeet Ulrich use. Like, she's one-upping Skeet Ulrich's character in this scene. She's saying, I've seen what you've done with just your words. Watch me do what I do with power. Like, true power.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't read it that way at all. Is that how you read it too, Carmelita?
That's good. I think I kind of always thought about it like, I mean, she's flexing. I always thought
it was that the futility of that, right? Like, I have all this fucking power, and I still can't just be as gifted as natural Sarah, right? And that in that moment, that's a concession of a way, right?
Right.
Because obviously the movie plays it that she's very jealous of Sarah throughout.
Right.
You know, and that just felt like a moment of kind of caving in. And I always wonder, what do you think happens at the end of that scene if Sarah doesn't bust in and be like, it's Inception boning, you know? Like, you know, there's multiple levels of Sarahs. And, like, what happens if Sarah doesn't walk in on that scene?
I think it plays out the way it plays out, man. Like, I think it goes on a little bit longer, but I think she still does the deed, man. She fucking throws that asshole out the window.
You think she still kills him even if they fuck and he's like, lights a Yankee candle and he's like, that was great?
Absolutely. Like, there's nothing there's nothing about that scene. Like, all it does, all that Sarah bursting into the room does is expedite what's going to happen eventually.
Right.
Then she realized, it's at that moment that Nancy realizes, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not here to be romantic. I'm here to assert power. And, like, eventually, and when she does, like, she has that amazing, again, like, Fairuza Balk's just like, this is one of her best scenes in the movie where she's
the fucking best, man.
She's the best. Like, she calls them a whore, and you're just like, that's how I know this has nothing to do with, for me as a viewer, it's not, I feel like there's no romance involved. This was always meant as a revenge plot. She's getting back at her for, like, treating her like the side piece, because clearly they have a history of some kind.
Yeah.
So for him to do that and basically, like, do a dalliance, like, oh yeah, I'm just, like, messing with the, you know, weird girl. She's taking now advantage of the fact that he wants something that she knows he can't have.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, also, he in a way disguises himself to have sex with women, right? There is something to that. Yeah. I do wonder if she doesn't come in, if she still fucking throws him out the window, or if now he's her plaything. That was because he says jealous. That's the trigger word, right? When he says you're jealous, then she gets mad. She's like, I'm not jealous. It's like,
but see, like he's
going to
say the wrong thing eventually, anyways,
right?
Because eventually the glamour will not be there, and eventually Nancy's way too into tricking people. Nancy's way too drunk with power to not show him at the end. Like, let's say that scene doesn't happen the way. Let's say they go all the way through it, and she absolutely 1000% reveals who she is at the end, and eventually he says the same shit. He's like, why'd you do?
Yeah.
He does the exact same thing you're doing, where you're asking, like, why are you Sarah? Why do you think that that's going to get? He's like, all right, fuck you.
Yeah.
Same result.
It's a startling scene, right? Because that house, you're like, every extra in that house, you're like, God damn, this is a mayo jar party, right? Just fucking creamy whites everywhere. And that party they cut through it like a hot butter knife. You're like, good Lord.
It is just.
And that's what you love about them, is they are so immediately their own, right? And they're their own entity. And I think that is where it gets so fucking soul crushing. This last part of them haunting her sleep and attacking her so vehemently. And them trying to get her to kill herself part of the end is so extra brutal. Today when I was watching it, right, is not only do I just not want these girls to be so bad and mocking her, right, for, how are you sleeping? And all the girls are in on it. Not just Nancy's doing it. And they're kind of cowering minions, which they seem to think they can get away with. They're actively engaged in this, hurting her too, because they want this power, right?
Yeah.
And I thought trying to get her to hurt herself again, right? Take advantage of the fact that she had previously cut herself and this and that. It's so personal, and it's so just cutting so deep, right? Again, I think that's where this movie operates best. It's always so many extra layers from most movies of this ilk. What do you make of this final showdown, Carmelita?
In terms of like the group dynamic, I think it plays really well with just kind of those teenage friendships. I don't know if it's that way for everyone, but I mean, I remember like you would have like people that you felt like you were really tight with, and then something would happen, some falling out, and it's like the gloves are off and it's vicious.
Yeah, truly vicious.
And so it feels very, obviously it's extreme here because they have these powers, but like the spirit behind it, like that heel turn, it feels very like, oh yeah, I remember that.
And it's not only like they're just trying to bind her. They want her to leave the city, leave the state. Oh, right. You can't do that because you're a fucking teenager? Well, we're going to make you kill yourself.
Right.
And they do a glamour that they killed her father in a
nuts.
plane. I mean, god damn.
It's intense.
And it works for Nancy because, again, Veruza Balk is playing this as big as possible, right? She is our grandiose Tim Curry and legend, like, embodiment of all darkness that she doesn't deserve to be, but okay, we get it, right? It's just fucking sad, man. It's so hard to watch. I didn't like seeing my girls go down this way.
But then when she doesn't, this is the other thing that I never thought about it until we watched this time, was Nancy's the one who slashes Sarah's wrists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Sarah withstands all this abuse, all this pain, all this hurt, and then Nancy's the one to finally be like, fine, I'll do it. Like, Nancy pushes everything all the way through, but it's not, right. She's inflicting pain that way. Like, that I think is probably like, that's why, for me, I've always assumed that's why Sarah actually can invoke the spirit. Not because she's like a natural witch or whatever the fuck that means, but like, because she's able to withstand this. And then when Nancy slashes her wrists and like, you're still bleeding. What is it even? Like, it's not a glamour. You're still bleeding. She's finally crossed a line of like, okay, you're actually hurting other witches.
Right.
When you hurt another witch, like you're actually causing more pain than you're bringing like you're the balance is out of whack. But that's always the thing that it struck me this time. Was like, oh wow, I totally forgot. Like she actually did that to her.
Yeah, she does. And Rochelle and Bonnie, I think this is something that also feels very authentic. Like that group mentality where like a mob,
Yeah.
everyone will engage in some kind of totally heinous behavior because you're in a group and the energy and the adrenaline is going and everybody's kind of, it's contagious.
Right.
Well, also you think it's going to stop and you don't want to be the one who's like
right.
the wuss and yeah, so it just keeps spiraling out of control. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that feels very authentic, but then the girls do reach a point where Rochelle and Bonnie get spooked.
Yeah.
It's gone a little too far. And
only when they
get
think
out of
that
there.
They're getting their comeuppance times 3, right? Because they simply see a mirror and their resolve melts immediately.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Well,
and they're out.
It starts though when she like orders them to go. I can't remember what she tells them to do, but she literally screams at them.
Go upstairs and make sure she's dead.
That's
essentially,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's where it happened, and that's how
and
I
she
think
even threatens Rochelle. She's like, "You're fucking
like,
dead too." Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's like. That to me was always the moment where all the two of them are like, maybe this is a little too hardcore for my taste. I just wanted to look pretty.
I mean,
and
they still fucking go up the
not
stairs.
to deal with any more racists.
Yeah. But that's what I mean, right? It's like then you get this sad shot of what if Bonnie's scars were on her face, right? Maybe she was okay before and now she gets her punishment. What if Rochelle's hair falls out because, you know, they went too far in punishing the racist that we're supposed to feel bad for? Like that part is...
It's not too far in punishing the racist, too far in punishing Sarah. Punishing racists is always
that part's true, but when they do the hair falling out again, right, that's their punishment for the specific spells they had chosen, right?
Right.
They're being punished in that regard.
Well, it came back to them threefold.
Yeah, and there's a shot, right? Because again, just telling us that at their very core that these people who are finally getting a chance to right some wrongs are bad, right? That the evil coming from their heart and their magic is bad. The movie specifically is telling us that. I think it's a hard pill to swallow, and it just makes you fucking depressed, right? It feels wrong in this day and age. The scene that really jumped out at me is when Fairuza Balk's going upstairs by herself. She sees the two run away. She's not in charge of them. She has this, again, and she's playing this manic, right? She's the Joker. She's
so
all
good.
of these villains, and it's great.
Yeah.
That moment when she's creeping up the stairs and she doesn't know what she's walking up to find, she looks horrified. She looks small. She looks like a child, right? She is no longer this all-powerful witch.
No.
She looks fucking scared because she's not projecting anything than what she is because there's no fucking audience anymore. Right. And I thought that moment really gets to the core of what I feel about Nancy is she's just a fucking hurt, abused person. Right? And that I don't think she's this ultimately evil person that the movie keeps wanting her to be, and she is in the end. Right? And I wanted some way at the end to not do that to her. And that scene on the stairs was really beautiful. Then she runs upstairs, and we know, snake fingers. She wants to hurt her.
So good.
They start fighting.
That.
All of the bugs.
That's one of my favorite
toilet,
effects in a movie ever.
That maggot toilet will haunt me forever.
when the snake fingers always freaked me out. When bugs just randomly start crawling out of her mouth, I remember seeing it the first time, like,
yeah,
not good.
What do you make of the final stand of Nancy, Carmelita?
I mean, it's such a memorable showdown, and yeah, I'm with you. Like, there's those moments where you can tell she's kind of scared. Mm-hmm. Like she doesn't know what's about to happen. And then her blood's up. And okay, here's I'll tell you this. Here's something that Sarah should have maybe thought twice about. Don't mock the emotionally unstable,
that's
all powerful girl. Like, okay, like she gets Nancy down, and rather than mock her, like maybe now is the time to like flee the house and then go try to do the binding elsewhere.
Right.
That would be my one thing is like, don't mock her because it's just going to keep escalating.
Yeah.
Well,
But
she does,
and we get this crazy showdown.
Yeah, Manon talked to me. He told me that you fucked this all up. And you're like, it's pretty strange that fucking Manon didn't do anything about it his fucking lazy self, right? Oh, you're too busy being a stadium for cosmic fucking deity football? You can't handle this yourself. You got to pit these two women against each other. You fuck.
No, I mean, we're just going right back to monotheist or theistic
it plays
religion.
the Skeet Ulrich thing all over again, right?
Yes.
The person that she wants, Manon, is again choosing Sarah, and when she loses her rage, and they have that like fighting on the wall, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
so awesome.
It's awesome, but it
ends very tragically.
Seeing Nancy in that bed,
I feel
I can
so
fly,
bad for Nancy.
I have power. It broke my fucking heart.
Absolutely,
it broke my heart, man. And I don't like seeing that ending, right? And again, it reminds me, like, would Aladdin be the classic Disney tale if at the end Aladdin had to go to jail for stealing bread? Like, that doesn't make Aladdin a better movie, right?
That's a very false equivalence.
Is that not the exact same thing?
That is a shocking false equivalency.
How dare you? That is a perfect film analogy. If at the end they're like, thank you for saving it, but also you unleashed the genie that made me eat fucking bird crackers. Go to the dungeon. Go to the dungeon.
One guy literally saved the world with his genie friend.
Or did he fuck up the whole world by letting
so
Jafar...
you're saying he should have been put in jail anyways?
Well, I'm saying that whole movie's Aladdin's fault. Are we just going to let that slide
I had no idea
now?
we were going to talk about Aladdin
happening here?
I'm saying Aladdin is the worst movie
analogy.
if Aladdin ends up in the dungeon, right? And he has to watch rich-ass Jasmine just plowing some other Arabian nobleman who's done nothing to earn his lot in life. That's what the craft ends on. I hate seeing Nancy in that bed.
This is the worst analogy you've
I
ever
want
come
Nancy
up
to
with.
get a whole new world and fucking fly out of that bed. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted for the end of the movie.
There's consequences for your actions.
Only for the outcast.
Only for the one who
And
overused her powers. She abused her powers.
Everyone's been abusing her with their powers.
She invoked
her
the
whole
spirit
life.
and invoked all the powers of Manon and then literally abused them almost immediately.
She killed one guy who was like a date rapist or whatever. I don't think she did anything.
She technically killed two guys.
Well,
she did, yeah. Ray.
That's right. Well, that was kind of an accidental. Like he was gonna beat her mom up, and she lost her shit.
Was it an accident?
She
it was definitely on
screams
purpose.
in rage, and then it happens. She's not sitting there like reading out of a weighty tome.
She's literally standing
Paragraph
over him, watching
5,
it happen.
Subline.
What are you talking about?
Carmelita, decide this. Is my Aladdin analogy apt here?
It's utter trash.
How dare you?
It's a stretch, but I get what you're saying. Here's the thing.
How politic of you.
Here's the... Oh, yeah, always. Here's the thing.
Very neutral.
You can tell Alex he's wrong. It's fine.
I think, I take this as a cautionary tale.
Yes.
That, I identify with Nancy and with the Misfits. And I think... this is in some ways kind of like an old school fairy tale.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm down.
Think
I
about
like that.
think about like if we're going to talk about Disney movies, think about The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Yep.
The original Little Mermaid story.
Horrifying.
Yeah,
It's
Eric
horrifying.
doesn't want to thump, so she turns into bubbles.
I mean,
right? That's how it is.
It's like it's messed up, man.
Okay, but does
real
this not
messed up.
prove my point that as stories age, Disney's like, maybe it's better if she gets a wedding?
Hey, we're talking about the craft, not Disney, all right?
Right, okay.
I'm saying when Disney inevitably buys the rights to the craft and owns every movie ever, and we get the Blu-ray re-release with Songbirds for Nancy.
In the spirit of a classic fairy tale, a classic folk tale, like there's this cautionary thing, and it's like, like I relate to Nancy. And what would I do if I were given the power, whatever that power is? What would I do with it? And I think there's a way to read this to say Nancy it didn't have to end this way for Nancy. And we wish that the Nancys of the world could have a happier ending.
Yeah.
Nancy took it a little too far.
I mean, this has some parallels to a movie that we discussed, Carmelita, Carrie, right? Who just snaps and loses her shit.
Yeah.
I do think there's just a relensing that you could do with this movie, that Sarah's the one who takes it too far because she always gets to do whatever the fuck she wants. And that maybe the friendship of this coven, they pull Nancy back from the edge, and those three are fine, and Sarah fucking ends up in the asylum.
I mean, that would be I think that'd be a very fascinating rewrite, personally.
Yeah.
I think Sarah's the Jafar of this movie. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, my God. I think, just get away from that shit. I actually think that there's another world, though, where that movie happens, that it has the exact same result. Like, I still feel sad for whoever winds up in the asylum simply because, like, you took it too far. Like, you were given the ultimate power in the universe, and you had no idea how to wield it properly. Like you were saying,
you're
Carmelita,
a teenager.
Yeah, you're a teenager. Right. It's a perfect parable. It's a great fable of power run amok, and not just because, and it has nothing to do with corrupting powers. It has much more to do with the fact that you're a teenager, and like, of course, you're going to use it for a selfish reason because teenagers suck. That's what they do. But
But I think what you guys keep saying, how far she took it, I just disagree with that. I think she's riding the scale. She really is, until she tries to kill Sarah.
So she did take it too far.
But I'm saying that's for narrative effect. I think she was fine. I think she was fucking fine. Sarah should have stayed in the coven.
Much like Jafar,
if Sarah wound up a genie. Yeah, see, Sarah is actually the Iago of the film and steals the lamp for her fucking
What is
self.
happening?
If she would have just stayed in the coven, she could have talked sense to them and been an actual sister and friend. Then she wouldn't get slashed and they'd be fine. They'd be just fine. But no, she's selfish. She's selfish. And Nancy has to pay the price, as always, because her and Bonnie and Rochelle want to be just normal people.
What is this?
Who aren't abused. They have to get put down like old yellers, and I hate it.
Join us tomorrow where we talk about Return of Jafar, the Aladdin sequel.
I'm just saying. That Aladdin analogy might be the best thing we've ever done on this show.
Nope, untrue. Patently false.
Carmelita's going to text me after the show and be like, I'm so sorry I lied in front of Alex. Genius. All right, final love letter to the craft, Carmelita. This has been a great, lively conversation about a movie. I do love this movie. I'm not trying to say I don't love this movie.
No, I know.
But
know.
a final
I get
love
what you're
letter.
saying.
Why does the craft still hold this magic for you and is still a safe space for you?
I think the thing about the craft is that it's this great reminder of that time in your life. And regardless, even for younger listeners who did the teenage thing after the 90s, even for our more mature listeners who did high school before the 90s.
Those savages who were teenagers in the 80s, good Lord.
Whenever it happened to you, like this movie really taps into that awful time and just like how tumultuous and chaotic and crazy it is and everything that's happening. And so even though, I might have played light as a feather, stiff as a board and read tarot or whatever, like I had no powers. But I can relate to all of the feelings that bring these girls together and all of the feelings that drive them to make the choices that they make. And I think audiences can continue to like feel that. And I think, like there's just something about that continues to resonate. And even now as a middle-aged woman, like when I watch this, like I'm transported and I have that little moment of remembering and like having like feelings about it. Like you feel it.
I agree. See, I'll always remember them walking happy together through the hall in slow-mo. Like they absolutely fucking own the place. For one moment in the film, their power actually gives them all what they kind of want, man, which is like a happy place amongst this fucking tumultuous sea. So I think that's a lovely sentiment you said. Thank you so much for coming on the show. That's it for the craft. We'll be back with Aladdin someday. I promise you. We'll make sure to do a heavy craft bit in our Aladdin pod. I still think that is a great one, but neither here nor there. The craft is also a great one. Carmelita, you are truly one of the great ones. Thank you for spending time with us tonight.
We love you. Thank you so much.
We do love you so much. We always appreciate it.
I'm so glad you got to do October with us again. And this was
Me too.
This was the best choice, honestly.
It's the happiest time of the year. And who else would I want to spend it with but you guys?
Aww.
Now I'm worried about what spells you're going to cast on us after this is over. Too nice. No. All right, guys, you know the deal. Every day this month, a new episode. So come back tomorrow. We'll have more horror movie fun. Go back and download the episodes we've already released. More than anything, thank you guys for spending time with all of us and our friends this October. We'll see you next time.